A noticeable number of our favorite fashion content creators and influencers have publicly stated that they're significantly downsizing their luxury designer fashion collections. And I now know that I'm not the only one who is curious to know why. This isn't the first time influencers are selling their items, but the sheer number of them doing it at the same time, it's enough to raise eyebrows. Whilst many of these influencers are from different backgrounds, different locations, they have different style aesthetics, I found some commonalities for the reasons that they've given as to why they're downsizing their collections or selling their items at this moment. And one of these is something that they've not explicitly said in words, and I don't think that they would be ready to admit it, but I think it's the truth. The number one reason these influencers are selling their designer fashion items is they just had too much. This is the most obvious reason for fashion influencers who are either gifted a lot of these items or they purchased a lot of these items over the years for the sake of their craft. It doesn't matter if you love a thing or not. It doesn't matter how organized your closet space is, how large your closet is. If you just have too much or too many of the same thing, it's gonna get overwhelming. And in a lot of these posts, or faves essentially admitted they had too much. They had duplicates of many things, they had many similar things serving the same purpose, and they just did not end up utilizing a lot of these things, and they're essentially just taking up space in their households. And of course, the most logical thing to do here is to get rid of them. And these things have value, so it just makes sense to sell them to somebody who will value, will use them, and who will love them, versus staying in their collections being useless. Reason number 2 is growth. This one seems to be the running theme through all the pieces of content that I reviewed on this topic. Many of these influencers alluded to emotional growth and discovering that there are other areas or aspects of their lives that they can get this deeper sense of gratification that they thought they would have gotten through owning or purchasing a ton of designer labeled items. Many of these influencers, through influencing or other aspects, now have businesses, they've started families, they're dealing with mental and physical changes that require a different level of emotional maturity than they had when they were in the heights of creating these collections. They are fulfilled in other aspects of their lives, and their collections are essentially complete. They're moving on to other things. Reason number 3 your favorite influencers are selling their designer fashion items right now is liberation. Now, this one might be a little bit of a stretch. It might be me thinking a little bit too deeply, but I really do feel like this is a significant driving force behind what is happening right now. There's a lot of psychology behind fashion consumerism that kind of forces people to stay in a sort of rat race. There's this constant need to fill a void or to prove to others that you are well off or you're succeeding in life, or to prove to them that you belong somewhere in some sort of group, in some sort of setting. A lot of people will not admit to this, but in the thick of it, fashion consumerism can be very trapping. This is even more of a problem for a fashion influencer who has built a public identity based on fashion consumption as well as the possession of these fashion items, especially designer fashion items, which are the most desirable of fashion pieces. It can be a big trap for these people. The public comes to know you as this person. They've locked you into a box. This is who you are, and this is who they want you to remain. And for those who use these platforms to build a livelihood off it, if you step outside of these boxes, you can imagine that support goes down, engagement goes down, and so does your income from being a fashion content creator or an influencer whose public identity is based on consuming fashion. But with the emotional growth that we just spoke about and with some sort of enlightenment, I think we're at a point in time where fashion consumption has been slowing down because generally the public aspirational shoppers don't have as much income. They've had the opportunity to breathe, to contemplate, and they've realized that they can actually get rid or shed a part of this persona by selling their designer items, especially those that they are not using, those that have or serve no purpose in their lives. And this brings about not only mental liberation, but also physical liberation because they're able to declutter a lot of these items from their immediate surroundings. Reason number 4 for why your favorite fashion influencer is selling their designer items, especially at this point in time, is that it's a trend. Influencers or fashion collectors selling their items to the public is not a novel practice. However, when several notable influencers in a specific period of time are not only selling their items, but making whole pieces of content about why they're selling their items, it's starting to give trend. And that's essentially what's happening for a lot of people. And there's nothing wrong with it being a trend. Some have already taken offense to people calling it a trend, but it is what it is. Aspirational shoppers who used to love this type of content, who used to eat it up, they now have to be a little bit more discerning. They have to be more focused and intentional with their shopping, and they can no longer lavishly spend on these types of items. And if you can't purchase something that you desire, you kind of feel bad about it, and so you are dissuaded, or you kind of shift away from that type of content that's going to make you feel bad, and you go towards something that's going to make you feel better, either how to make more money or how to live a better life without these things. So those are the types of contents that are getting engagement. And as a content creator who relies on these platforms for your livelihood, your income, you are going to gear your content towards what is going to get you the most engagement, aka what is trending. You're going to give the people what they want to see, and this is what they want to see. Number 5 reason that your favorite influencers are selling their designer items, and one that they're less likely to admit but is most likely the case, is that they're doing it for money. Word on the street is that everybody is broke. And yes, there are levels to this. You're broke, my broke, they're broke. Completely different brokes. We're in a time where elitism and public displays of wealth is highly unpopular. And so that type of content is no longer aspirational and is not getting as much engagement as it did before. So their views are declining. And of course, if your livelihood is linked to your ability to create content and to have people engage with your content, you're not making as much money as you would have before. You're not getting as much engagement. And a lot of these influencers were able to establish very comfortable lives, some of them very lavish lifestyles, through the income that they were getting from this type of content creation or through influencing. And in order to maintain that type of lifestyle, if you're not getting money from one place, then you're going to get it from somewhere else. And if you have a bag that costs or will be able to sell at $25,000, there are so many things that you could do to maintain a lifestyle with $25,000. So selling these designer items is a pretty logical and smart move on their part to recoup the funds that they had initially invested into these items. Personally, I see nothing wrong with these influencers selling their designer fashion items for whatever reason that floats their boat. And I also hope that we are able to look at things from very logical perspectives and to give each other the grace to be who we are, to discover, to have emotional growth, and just to enjoy our lives, especially when it comes to fashion. I wish for us all to be able to enjoy fashion in the way that it was supposed to be enjoyed and not fall prey to the capitalistic aspect and the overconsumption of fashion. I mentioned that in this article on some trends that I think we need to avoid when it comes to fashion. But overall, we should be enjoying this. It shouldn't be a burden. It shouldn't be a cause for all sorts of negative concerns. We should be able to enjoy fashion to its fullest. It is a way for us to express ourselves without using words. And I hope that you will continue to stay fashionably well and in good health.